Well, good evening. Good evening to you if you're joining us from Guyana. Good evening to you if you're joining us from the Caribbean, from North America, from if you're joining us from Europe, good night. Good night, good night, good night. And if you're coming at us from further afield, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to all of you who are joining us from Paramaribo, Nikeri, over there in Suriname. And those of you who join us from French Guyana, good evening and welcome to Politics 101. It's the day after the weekend, and I think uh, lots of you would have had some time to stretch out and uh, give yourself a little breather, and we're ready for the struggle again. Good evening. Good evening to all of you, to all the wonderful people from Georgetown. Yesterday there was the motorcade rally, the APNU. Didn't get to go out there, but I took some time out to listen to the speeches. Um, and so all those of you who were out there having a wonderful time, not a wonderful time in terms of party, but in terms of upping the ante. Let's get to work. We have work to do. We have a lot of work to do. How about all of you out there in the quarantine? We haven't been out in the quarantine for a while, but we will be coming there soon. A special good evening to the people of Beirut, or what they call Beirut, behind there at Bachelor's Adventure Paradise. Welcome to Politics of 101. Good evening. Good evening to the people of Linden. Linden, welcome to Politics 101. So a few Lindeners somewhere I was this past week. But welcome to Politics 101. About the people out there in Region 3 on the west side, West Bank Demerara, all of you, the people there from Stanley Tongue and Good Intent, Sisters, Wales, Potential, of course, Baggersville, and Lagrange. And then we have Parfit Harmony, the big settlement behind there. Well, it's more than a settlement now. It's a housing scheme, big housing scheme behind there, people of the West Bank. And then the people on the East Coast, wonderful people. Then Amstel, of course, is always in the house. Stroudville, met somebody from Iflot, Kashba. Uh, welcome to Politics 101. People from Virgin Ocean, Tushen, all the way down there, Parika. Welcome to Politics 101, Metamir Zorg. I saw a few people joining us from Metamir Zorg. Cornelia Ida, welcome to the people of the West Side. Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to Politics 101. And I'm not forgetting the people of Buxton. Um, well, oh my goodness. To all of you, I dare not start with names because I'm going to get in trouble. So many of you have said you watch the program either live here, but quite a lot of you watch it on Channel 9, and we're going to be talking about a little bit about that tonight. Welcome to Politics 101. Please share the link. Please share the link and let us know. How about the people on the East Bank? I see Vibert White is here. Grove, Grove, the people of Grove, the people there of Mocha Arcadia. How about my friends in Providence? Providence area there. Welcome to Politics 101. And all of you there on the East Bank, stretching all the way from Timeri, coming right down. Um, special welcome to the people on the highway. The people on the highway. Um, Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening. Please share the link and let's get to talking tonight. Um, let's see. On Wednesday we're gonna have the IPADG people coming back. Remember last week they were here bringing us up to speed with their strategic plan, where they're going to be back on Wednesday for us together to really get into the details of what the plan. We did an outline of the plan and last week, and on Wednesday we're going to get in some details of the plans. A good evening. And all of you IPADG people, hardworking people at IPADG, who continue to keep the ball rolling despite all the setbacks. Tomorrow night we're gonna have Dr. Henry Jeffrey, and hopefully before the end of the week we're going to have a couple of other people. Lots of great comments on the program that we did with Brother Vincent Alexander. On the question of ethno-racial security and using Brother Rafi Dev's statement about Hindu superiority to get going. And we played that program back on the weekend because there were requests for us to replay the program. This past weekend, we were hanging out with Brother Kedaki. It's his birthday. And so on Saturday, there was a birthday dinner, and some of us were there. And happy birthday to Brother Kedaki. Welcome to Politics 101. I was saying good evening to all you good Buxtonians. Well, you know, Buxton has been good to us. It's been good to me. You know, it's the place where I was born, where I grew up, and it's my home village. So sometimes one takes some time out to say a special hello and shouting out back to all those of you who I have had a chance to meet and to talk to individually. You know, it's always good to do that, to speak to people individually. You know, we have had the misfortune of quite a few deaths in the village, so we've had lots of funerals, and it's one of the few places that you still get to see everybody, old and young and in between, women, men, and you get a chance to talk to them, if just for a minute or two, you know. And one of the things I like about our people, they don't ask for much. They don't ask for much. You know, they frown on those of us who consider ourselves to be activists and leaders, and we don't find time to have that little hello with them, that little shake hand, and so on. Well, for Buxtonians, it's not about a shake hand and hello to me because they're my people, but it's about, you know, greeting people, you know, whether it's my neighbor, the Polydor girl, or whether it's my friend Florence Bacasel. Florence is older person than me, and you know, having a chance to talk with her and listen what you're saying. Listen, you said. Good evening, Florence. But it's good to meet people on an individual basis and to call them by name, and to stop and chat with them and to hear what their views are. And often their views are extremely well informed. And so I'm not dissing the rest of Guyana, but just a special shout out to my fellow Buxtonians, and to say thank you for the faith, thank you for the support, thank you for the guidance And thank you for the encouragement as we continue this struggle. We've got work to do, and we've got to get to work. We've got to get to work. I want to talk tonight about a couple of things, and one of the things I want to start talking about is this question of freedom of expression. I noticed in today's papers, I think is Melly, I think is her name, the young lady who apparently has been doing some very good work from our base in North America, has been impacted what's going on in our country and at the level of people. And she apparently has a strong following on social media. And the understanding is that she is either charged or going to be charged with cybercrime offenses. And you know, one is getting tired of this now. Cybercrime laws are intended to deal with that, with cybercrime. But that cybercrime law is now being used to whip opposition spokespersons. And by opposition, I'm not talking about just opposition political parties, but whoever dares to raise their voice against what is going on. It is being used to deny freedom of expression, to deny freedom of speech. And there are all kinds of indicators when a society begins to rot, begins to its descent into the dictatorial pit. But one of the clear signs is the question of free speech. And we've noticed this government has used the cybercrime as a means of shutting people up. Our brother on this program, a founder member of Politics 101, founder member of the Guyanese Morning Time. I'm talking about Mr. Morgan, Mr. Albert Morgan. Mr. Morgan made comments on this program like all of us do. Yes, it's Melly Mel. Yes, all of us do. And we express our frustrations, our outrage. And he made a very innocent statement. And I'm sure it's the PPP people who took that statement to the ERC, who then took it to the police. And the police has been basically harassing Mr. Morgan every day. And I say harass deliberately. They're yet to charge him. One time they give him the impression that they charge him, then they keep going to his house. He has to come down to town. He has to leave the quarantine, come down to town. And they're questioning him about all kinds of nonsense. Now he has to report to the police every 2 weeks. This is an ordinary person. This is not, you're not talking here about Aubrey Norton or a big police. This is an ordinary person who has given service to this country. Mr. Morgan has served this country in ways that many of us have not. He has served in the armed forces of this country, defending this country. And because he made a statement expressing its outrage at the government, they're arresting that man. We've got work to do. A lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. Now they're going after Melly Mel. What they're doing is trying to shut us up. They're trying to shut us up. And it's not just those of us who are in the leadership seat or seats, but it's ordinary people who are using their freedom of expression to let the government know that they are unhappy. And you look at PPP people, they come on this program and they say the most nasty things, the most racist things. I don't even bother to block them. The programs are here, the ERC, the police, they can come. I know right now, sitting in a library, there are 2 or 3 people who are monitoring this program right now, operating out of NCN. That is what they're turning NCN into. It's not NCN, but the NCN building. They're in there monitoring this program. And I don't mind, because I'm a teacher. I teach. And I'm sure they learn quite a lot. So I don't mind the little boys or girls who they put to do this kind of work. But they come on here and they say the most nasty things. The ERC has asked myself and Aubrey Norton to appear before them. I haven't spoken to Aubrey yet on that matter. But I have ignored the ERC. But I was somewhere, I think I was at Sister Marshall's wake, and a couple of people told me, no, I should go before them. I should go before them and I should lecture them. They felt very strongly, Sister Leslyn. Especially, she said to me, she said, go before them and teach them. Freedom of speech is not something we ought to take lightly. This is something that our foreparents died for. When you were a slave, you did not have freedom of speech because you weren't a human being. And we bolted, we broke down the gates of slavery, the walls of slavery, in order for free speech. Bob Marley asked, why can't we roam this open country? Why can't we roam this open country? There was a time we couldn't roam the open country. Freedom of speech is there to us. We've got work to do. And we've got to start working. We've got to start working. What is it that woman, that young woman, Melly Mel, what is it that she's doing? That they're turning her into a criminal now? When the right to free speech dies, a society dies. Look at what they're doing to the traditional media. We know they're harassing those of us on social media. This program is rebroadcasted on the weekend on Channel 9. And we want to thank Channel 9 for rebroadcasting this program. I give them a donation. Whenever some of you send a little donation to me, it is that donation, part of it I use to give Channel 9. They're not charging me for that program to be on there. I give them a donation, and it's when you, the ordinary people, send me a little donation, and I want to thank those who have donated. I don't come and ask you for donations. Some of you donate, and we keep the program on Channel 9 because they're all the people who don't have access to social media. And even when they have access to social media, they prefer the TV. And so many people have told me that they look forward on Sundays and I think on Saturdays up to Channel 9. And they've been writing letters, the GNCB, the National Broadcasting Authority. They've been writing letters almost every month, citing this program, threatening to close down Channel 9. Every time they're calling in Channel 9, Dr. Hines program, Dr. Hines program. Things are said on Dr. Hines' program that are not proven. This government is racist. Dr. Hines doesn't give any proof. And they're harassing Channel 9 because they want to get this program off Channel 9. Channel 9 doesn't get any government ads. It doesn't get work from the government. Channel 9 is operating on its bearings. Teacher George used to say, oh God, me up on my bearings. Old timers would know that. And they're hounding those people. Because they want to get at me. They're harassing our brother Morgan. And they want me to go before them to ask me why I did not condemn what Morgan wrote. And as I've said on this program, I am not a slave catcher. I don't encourage slave catching. Morgan did not commit a crime. And I'm not going before the ERC to condemn anybody. The right to free speech is sacred. So they're trying to get Channel 9 to threatening to close the People's Station down if Dr. Hines' program is not removed. Why do they fear Dr. Hines' program? Why? We know why. We know why. And that is why I always tell supporters of the opposition, we may be losing sometimes, but all the time we are winning because of our very presence. As I said right now, in the library at NCN, people are monitoring this program, monitoring what I am saying, what you all are writing. We don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to hide. If I was trying to engage in guerrilla warfare, I would not have been sitting here tonight. I would have been in the hills somewhere. The word. Why do they fear the open word? Well, people say, if you not get Congate Ado, you're not studying. It is because of what they're doing. They fear us. Look at what they're doing to Kaichor News and Stabrook News. And you all know I have my problems with Kaichor and Stabrook and the role they played in the 5 months. I felt they went too far. I felt Kaichor News and Stabrook News went too far. They did not just report the news. They editorialized and they fell into the trap of selectively deciding when and what is rigging. And they found themselves trapped by saying rigging happened at Ashmin. And then later on, when the recount showed rigging happened before Ashmin, they found themselves having to silence. I have my problems with them. But I will fight for their right to free speech. One Randolph Prasad, Dr. Randolph Prasad, working out of the office of the president, I understand, writes a lot of tripe in the papers. A lot of nonsense. And apparently, they weren't carrying his letters in Stabrook News and Kaitron News, because what he's doing is that he's repeating government propaganda. Jack Dio says something, Stabrook News and Kaitron carry it, and then he comes back in a letter and said the same thing. He and another one called Joel Bagwandin, they're the spin doctors, along with my old friend Freddie Kissoon. They're the spin doctors. I don't mind a party employing spin doctors, because I'm sure the opposition has its spin doctors too, or it ought to. But I'm saying, if you're a spin doctor, call yourself a spin doctor. Don't try to masquerade that you're doing some big analysis. My elder Iyusi Kwayana said very simply, Exxon is investing in our oil industry, but Exxon must not behave as though it is the only investor. That the oil in the ground belongs to Guyanese. And so therefore, Guyana is a primary investor. If a man come and say, I want to plant corn, and I want you and me to go into it, I got the money, I'm going to buy all the infrastructure, but it's you land. Be going into it. Both of you are investors. That is all that Kwayana is saying. And Randy Prasad cannot say Mr. Kwayana is right or Mr. Kwayana is wrong. He tries to paint Mr. Kwayana as anti-American and anti-investment. What nonsense. Try to paint Mr. Kwayana as a nationalist who don't want people to come in and invest. So no, you can't take a pro-Guyana position on anything. If you take a pro-Guyana position, they say you're anti-American or you're anti-development and you're anti-this and you're anti-that. Our position is very clear. In order to develop our oil, it takes Guyana and the oil companies, not the oil companies alone. Investments from overseas are important because they bring what we don't have. But we bring to the table what they don't have. We bring the raw material. They have the capital and the know-how. We don't have that. But we have the oil, the raw material. And together, we ought to be developing it. It is why the WPA said that we feel that we should have a national oil company. So that national oil company will be sitting down with the foreign oil company to develop our oil together. It will then get people like Jack Dio out of the way. Let us have a national oil company led by experts that looks after Guyana's interest. That is the WPS position. We recognize that there are people who are calling for a new contract, and we are not putting our energies there, not because we don't feel it's important, but those people are fighting that fight. We are saying going forward, if you have a national oil company along with the foreign oil companies, then Guyana would be better represented. That is our position. And the government has not embraced that position yet. We're not talking about a refinery. We don't believe that government should get into refining oil. But we need a national oil company with government shares to look after Guyanese interests. Now, once you say that, you're now anti-American and anti-development and anti-investment. All this nonsense about one Guyana is what it is, nonsense. And because Mr. Guyana pointed out that fundamental mistake, they're calling him old-time left-wing, old-time socialist. So you can't be a socialist anymore. You can't be left-wing. You can't be nationalist in Guyana. What kind of country are we living in? What kind of country are we living in when our national interests cannot be defended? And that jackass, Randy Prasad, is talking to Guyana as though he know economics more than Guyana for his information. Guyana got an economics degree and he didn't have to go in a university. All days they call it correspondence course. When Guyana was learning economics, where was Randy Prasad? But these chaps feel they can talk to people anyhow. And I'm going to say it. They feel they can talk to black leaders anyhow. It is not that they don't talk to other leaders anyhow, but it is leave like a special talking down to black leaders. I have not written a letter in a long time, but the WPA asked me to write. And I wrote a response to Randy Prasad. He wrote a response to my response and running around the place like a headless census chicken. Still can't answer. Still cannot say, I agree with Guyana that Guyana is an investor, or I disagree with Guyana that Guyana is. Say, what? Guyana's thing cannot be falsified. Some stupidness. I am an academic. And there are certain things I dare not say to my friends and my country people There are certain things I will not say to my friends and my comrades and my villagers, because they will not talk in foolishness. But these chaps have no shame. Guyana's hypothesis cannot be falsified. Keep that for the university. Guyana is not about is not about to show how bright he is. He's already a sage. The president held a press conference. Tell the media houses they can only send one reporter and one camera person, a technical person. And the one reporter can only ask one question. Well, you all tell me if that is not dictatorship. You are dictating to the media. Media houses have specialists. They have reporters who report on oil. They have reporters who report on crime. But you see, they didn't want the reporters to go there and ask about Dharam Lal. That was the problem. They didn't want the reporters to go and talk about Dharam Lal. And the reporters wanted to talk about Dharam Lal. And they have every right to want to talk about Dharam Lal. The president carried on for 70 odd minutes. And it's quite a stretch to sit down and listen to that chap for 70 something minutes. I mean, no offense. But there's some people just doesn't have what it takes to talk coherently. And the president is one such person. There is very little coordination between his mouth and his head. That is not my fault. That is partly something you have a gift for, or you learn. To coordinate between your mouth and your brains. And if the president cannot do that, then he has no right being president. Because once you become president, you are the representative of the people and you are accountable to the people. And the press, the media, are the medium. That's why they call them the media. It's called from medium, through which the president communicates with the people or any leader. So he talked nonsense, uncoordinated foolishness for 70 odd minutes, and then want the people, the media, to ask a question on the stupidness he talk. No, they want to know about the abuse of power in the Dharam Lal case, because we want to know about that too. So they limit the media to one reporter and one question. Are we there, Panam? Are we there, Panam? That is a sure sign of dictatorship. When the court made a decision they didn't like, they tell the court you're going into murky waters. Now they're telling the media you're going into dirty waters. And of course, they've singled out the president of the Guyana Press Association, Sister Nazima Rockbeer. They've singled her out because she's a strong leader and she knows what she's talking about. And you all know I'm going to say it. No, I won't beat around with it. I'm going to say it. And she's an Indian woman. eat their heart out. Because in their minds, all Indians supposed to genuflect before them. But there's an Indian woman taking an independent position. They're going to beat her and beat her and beat her. And I'm saying to you all black people, you all get a right to protect her. Who was the moderator of the press conference? Kit Nascimento. Not Kwame McCoy, who's the Minister of Information. Kit Nascimento, consultant. A consultant. What is the government consulting Kit Nascimento about? So Kit Nascimento now become an enforcer for the government. He is the man that is telling the media what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Now, Brother Kit has been around long. He's in this thing now 60 or 70 something years. Brother Kit, that's how you're going to end your long and illustrious career, being an enforcer for a dictatorial government? Brother Kit, I heard you said that you walked away from the Burnham cabinet because you didn't agree with the direction in which they were going. So far, so good. Please walk away from these two in the same way, because they're going in a worse direction than where Burnham was going. How are you going to watch your brothers and sisters in the media and using a whip to beat them? We've got work to do. We've got a lot of work to do. When you begin to muzzle the media, you're shutting down the society. You're shutting down the society. Oh, you know, David Hinds every night. The WPA doesn't have to get a microphone and get money to go to the street corner. David Hinds holding a public meeting every night. We got to stop it. I didn't invent technology. I bring other guests on to share their views. And yes, we are holding public meetings. I don't have access to the Guyana Chronicle. I don't have access to the Guyana Times. I don't have access to NCN. Why do you all fear the open word? Why do you all fear the open word? The right to free speech is a sacred right, and we have to fight to preserve it. We have to fight to preserve it. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all of you. Last night, I heard Brother Aubrey Norton said that the APNU has embraced Dr. Clive Thomas and the WPA's proposal for real structured cash transfers to every household. They call it the $5,000 proposal, 5,000 US proposal. Aubrey Norton embraced it last night. He's the first APNU leader to do so. Mr. Granger didn't endorse it. Mr. Granger's ministers didn't endorse it. The only other major leader who endorsed it publicly is Valda Lawrence. And now Aubrey Norton has embraced it and said that it will be part of an APNU government plan. Thank you. It's been, since 2018, it's been 5 years it took a PNC leader, apart from Valda Lawrence, to embrace that revolutionary proposal. What is the difference between these little cash grants that are running around the place, giving people, and our proposal? We are saying from the takings of the oil every year, take 10% of it. And we calculate that given the number of barrels that we are likely to sell and the price on the world market, we calculate that 10% would give each household a 5,000 US dollars, which is $1 million Guyana dollar. And we are saying we give it to each household, regardless of race, regardless of class. We know that the majority of people are poor people. And that if they get $1 million, we know from research what they're going to do with it. There's a county in California that gives cash transfer. And when they did this study, they found that people spend the money on child care. They spend it on buying better food for their children. And that only 1% of it was spent on alcohol or tobacco. And when we first came out with that proposal, some of our leaders said, oh God, if you give them people Guyanese money, they will spend it on rum and drugs and liquor. The research has shown otherwise. The vast majority of people, if you give them $1 million, Guyanese dollars, it's not a whole lot of money, but still is much more than they're getting now to supplement their income. You are telling me when they look around and see all the things they need, they're going to carry it and go and smoke it and drink it? We are glad the opposition leader has now come to the point and has been saying, Guyana, he has seen the light. Because we feel that that is the surest way of getting some of the oil resources into people's hands directly. When the government spend on infrastructure, they're giving you something indirectly. When they spend on school buildings, indirectly. And we are saying these things are important. They must spend money on infrastructure. 90% of the takings, we are saying, should go to infrastructure and all those other things. And 10% give it directly to people for them to decide what they want to do with it. And when Brother Norton said it last night, those of you who are listening, you all hear the cheers that went up in that audience. Everywhere I go, everywhere we go, little boys, little girls, old people, they tell you that They love it. And we're going to tie it. There's what you call conditional cash transfers and unconditional. Conditional cash transfer would say, we give this money to you, but we tie it to attendance in school. Your children have to go to school. We are tying it to attendance to clinic. You have to carry your children to clinic. And when you tie the cash transfer to those things, you are making people accountable. But more than that, increase attendance in school mean that we children get more bright. Yes, Florence. Yeah. It means that our children will become much more skilled. They'll be more educated because they're going to school more. It means that our children will be more healthy because they're going to the clinic to check up. The parents carrying them. Old people going. But you don't have to tell old people to go to the clinic for checkup. Nobody more prompt with a checkup than big people. So you don't even have to tell them, but children. So you're giving these cash transfers, helping people economically, but you're tying it to education and health. You're not running around the place giving people $10,000 that they will spend in half a minute and nothing in their lives will change. We're talking here about investing in people, changing their lives. That is what the WPS proposal is about. Transforming people's lives. I born and grew up seeing people poor. And I dedicated myself since I was a boy. I would fight so that people will no longer be poor. I didn't know what, I just knew that poverty was hell, to quote Shadow. I just knew that. Nobody had to tell me that. Nobody had to tell us that. We knew poverty was hell. And our parents tried their best to send us to school. And some of us were able to escape poverty because of education. Some of us, not many of us, some of us. The majority of us couldn't escape poverty, even though we went to school. How many of my friends who were as bright as I was, and even brighter than me, had to leave school to go to the back dam to help their parents because their father died when they were children, little children. Here is their chance to escape poverty. $10,000 given you because we care, because we don't give one damn. That is not going to get you out of poverty. And so we got to start working. We got to start working. These chaps throw around a lot of numbers. A lot of numbers they throw around, they call it data. And I noticed one of them, Joel Bagwandin, throw around a lot of numbers, trying to poo-poo it part of the strategic plan, trying to say how much the government did. And Professor Gampat wrote him and tell him his numbers are suspect. He showing how much Guyana grow between 1992 and 2015. And Gampat had to tell him Guyana grew because of the ERP, which was started by Hoyt and which the PPP took. And if the PNC were in power, the same growth would have happened if they had embraced their own ERP, and they obviously would have. Gampat is no friend of the PNC, but he's telling Joel Bagwandin, the growth that you're talking about between 1992 and 2015 was because of the ERP. And that growth would have happened under the PNC if they had been in power. Then they're talking about all the growth since 2020. Guyana has what is called front door status. They're sitting there where there's a lot of oil. We are sitting here where there's a lot of oil. And if the APNU, AFC were in power, the oil would have still been flowing. We would still have been getting the returns we are getting. And if the APNU and AFC embraced a more progressive vision, we might have been getting more. The money that we are getting now is not because of the PPP's genius. It's because we are sitting on oil as a country. That is why they don't want the debate about what the PPP is doing with the oil wealth. They're telling us, oh, the economy has grown 60%. It would have grown like that if the coalition were in power. It still would have grown like that. So the issue is not the money that is coming in, it's what the hell are you doing with the money? And you are using the money, PPP, to maintain yourself in power. I see a man write a letter in the paper. He said the PPP is the first honest. He's a PPP supporter, it looked like. He said the PPP is spending plenty money behind onshore votes and not spending as much. He was talking about the local government election and not spending the money on shore votes. In other words, he's saying the PPP spend money buying votes. That is what they're spending the money for. They're spending the money buying votes to stay in power. And they stupidly believe that you can buy black people. So if you get a few scores of black people out of a population, out of about half of the population, you get a couple of scores of them, and you tell yourself you make inroads. First of all, you ice pass black people, and then you ice pass Indian people to tell them that you bring a couple score of black people vote for you, and that is inroads. You're disrespectful to your own supporters, and you're more disrespectful to black people. To believe that they're so stupid that you can buy them. And that if you buy a few, half of who cocking you, because half of them that you think you buy, half of them cock you. But that's what they're spending the money on. They're not spending the money on developing people, on developing Africans, on developing Indians, on developing Amerindians. No, region 1, region 2, region 7, region 8, region 9, those 4 regions, no school children in this recent exam from those regions are in the top 10, the top 1%, sorry. Education apartheid. Granger called it that more than 12 years ago. It's education apartheid. Where Amerindians are not given the quality of education to enable them to pass much subject and get much marks. And then when you come to the regions on the coast and you look at the schools and the areas where the majority in the top 1% come from, they are those areas of privilege. Just look around your village. Whether they're Indian villages or African villages on the coast. Just look around your village and see how many of the children from your village are in the top 1%. Education apartheid. Class apartheid. Class. Apartheid means apart. Class apartheid in some cases and racial apartheid in other cases. The PPP is not using the oil money to develop Guyanese. They're using the oil money to maintain themselves in power. That is why, sisters and brothers, our task, our work has to be multifold. We've got to remove this PPP from office. They've become the obstacle to development. We've got to remove them from office. We've got to remove them from office. If they continue to oversee this country on their own, we are going right back to the plantation. And the plantation didn't just have slaves, it had slave masters also. We've got to remove these people. So we've got to get to work with real electoral change, a change in the electoral system. The voters list has to be scrapped, and we get a voters list from scratch. We can't doctor this. A new voters list from scratch. Then we have to have mechanism to ensure that there's not multiple vote, because we know that multiple voting is part of the system. This is where biometrics and those things come in. We have to have laws that prevent vote buying. Vote buying is a crime. In places like the United States, there are laws against that. We have to have laws against vote buying, because vote buying is a form of rigging. So we've got to fight for electoral change to give ourselves an equal chance of defeating the PPP in the first instance. There's something that is wrong with the system where the president can get less than 50% of the vote and still head the government, as happened in 2011 with my friend Donald Ramatar. And it was only the threat of a no confidence vote that caused him to go to election. This whole question of a minority government has to go. We have to go back to an arrangement where the president must enjoy majority support among the people. That has to be clear. So we've got to fight for electoral change. We got work to do. Then we have to fight to ensure proper management of our money, our national patrimony. Equitable distribution. Equitable distribution. Our society is a plural society. Racially plural, socially plural. And that plurality has to be taken into consideration when the wealth is being distributed. We've got work to do. And we have to save our country from the clear and present danger, which is the political domination of the PPP. For all intents and purposes, Guyana is a one-party state. One party makes all the decisions in the executive and in the legislative branches. And then they hold the judicial branch at ransom. One party controls the central government, and the whole local government at ransom because they control the purse. So we have horizontal one-party government among the three branches at the top. And then we have vertical one-party government, where the central government at the top control the NDC, the regional government, the municipalities. It's a damn one-party dictatorship. And one-party dictatorship, in our circumstances, would lead to one-race dictatorship. It's a recipe for instability. We've got to clean that up now. Look at the media, as I've been saying. Look at Chronicle. And I want to remind them, between 2015 and 2018, the Chronicle was different. I know that. Because between 2015 and 2018, Lincoln Lewis and David Hines were writing in the Chronicle, and we were writing sometimes critical of the government. They stopped us after 3 years. But for 3 years, we showed what the Chronicle could be in a democratic society. On a given Sunday, I wrote editorials for the Chronicle on the instructions of the editor. If the editor says, this is what I write that. And then in my column, nobody instructed me. So I was playing two roles. And I feel that is our state paper should be. Yes, the state paper should support the government. But not all of the paper should support the government. 50%. of the coverage should be for non-governmental organizations, including opposition parties. I wish the leadership of the coalition had allowed us to continue with that model. But politicians, you know, I made it clear, Lincoln made it clear, we vote for you. We supporting you. But we want you to do what is right. So if you're wrong, we will tell you you're wrong. On a given Sunday, like I said, I wrote editorial telling the government you're right. And then I wrote my own column telling them you're wrong. It is how I understand politics and how I will always understand politics. Independence should not be compromised. My support does not mean that I'm selling my independence. They stopped it after 3 years, but I wanted to go on record that for 3 years, we showed under the coalition what the Chronicle should look like. We've got work to do, plenty work to do, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop hammering this government. The PPP represents half the population. So in an ideal situation, they have to be part of governance. But they must not be part of governance where the system allows them to brutalize people, brutalize our very soul. Never again a Dharamlal should be allowed to get away. We must make that pledge and work to that pledge. Work to that pledge. And we've got to put pressure on our own leaders. As I said, Brother Aubrey has embraced the cash transfer, as the poor people call it, the 5,000 US policy. And it's a policy, not a handout, it's a policy. And we are glad that Brother Aubrey has come around to it. We have to continue to pressure our own leaders to do better. Not just pressure the PPP. We have to pressure our own leaders so that the next time they get into power, either by themselves or with others, that they do not make the same damn mistake that these people are making. I'm not telling you how to go out there and start tearing down your leaders. I'm saying be critical of them. Brother Aubrey would not have come around to that proposal had he not been going around the country and hearing people saying they like the WPA and Clive Thomas proposal. We've got to push our leaders to do more. The people at NCN in the library are signaling to me that times I want to go home. All right, I'm letting you all off. I gone. Tomorrow night I'm bringing Jeffrey on you all. I'm bringing Henry Jeffrey on you all tomorrow night. And then on Wednesday night we have Itpadaji. I'm trying to get my brother to come on before the end of the week, Brother Nigel Hughes. And so on. So we have an exciting week before us. And emancipation is coming up. Emancipation is coming up. And you all know I just beg you all for a little donation for our emancipation thing in Buxton. So we're going to talk more about that in the coming days. I don't beg you all steady. You all know that. All right? I just come with my causes. Right? But we'll talk a little bit more about that. And as we go on, we have about 2 weeks before emancipation. We have in our July 31st big Black is Beautiful concert at Buxton. On the night of the 31st, Yoruba singers will be in attendance. So you're invited from all over to come to Buxton on the night of the 31st for our annual Black is Beautiful concert. Headlining Yoruba singers, the oldest living steel band, but not steel band, string band, as we used to call it in the old days. But it's more than string now. The oldest band. So don't tie up your 31st. Don't tie up your 31st. All roads lead to Buxton on the night of the 31st. Yoruba singers headlining, and then we're going to have some more of your favorite people. I'll announce them as the days go by, and we'll talk before the end of the week for your little donation. I want to thank you all very much. I want to thank you all for the confidence, for the love, for the support. And you all always tell me, well, Dr. Hines, when you're going to throw your hat in the ring, and when you're going to this, and when you're going that, and think the hat always in the ring. I just not an electoral politician, so I don't go hard on the electoral thing. But I in the ring. Our party's in the ring. We want to build a movement around the WPA. And we want to build a movement between the WPA and the AFC and the PNC and others who may want, because we feel that opposition unity is important. The last time I think we did fairly well with the coalition. This time we have to strengthen the coalition. This time we have to strengthen the coalition. And that is why we are saying your voices have to make the difference. So that when people like myself go and sit down at the table, they can't ask me, Dr. Hines, what you bring to the table. I should be able to point and say, I bring something to the table. Whatever I take to the table is what you give me. I'm going as far as that tonight to say, whatever I take to the table is what you all give me. Interbeniba, Mekwashiba, take notice. I got tomorrow night, me and Jeffrey gonna be back doing we thing.